Hey, by the way, welcome to State of Play. Welcome to the play. We're talking about the politicians, right? I'm pretty sure you've seen our flyer. And is it the Last Supper?
Or it looks like there... that one thing that would make our members of parliament and our ministers of state, whom we've sacrificed a lot for.
You see their bellies in the picture there. You should see it.
One thing that'll make them happy, because I mean, after sacrificing a lot for them, believing that they will go and actually do the right things for us. They're actually telling us that, you know what, to better serve you, insulate us further. We're not going to fix the problem.
No.
Insulate us from it.
They want to avoid the problems that they are supposed to fix.
Yes.
Right?
So you're going to insulate them from the problems. And this is what's going to happen to you. There are 275 members of parliament.
Soon to be 276.
Yes. Who are going to be in the, because they come to parliament in Accra, right? And you have ministers. Ministers, about over 80 of them. So add that.
And deputy ministers.
Deputy ministers, 80 of them. Then you, 85. Add them. It takes you to some 360. Add the chief justices of the Supreme Court. Add others. And look, some of them may have more than one car. Today, it would no longer be, and eventually they start telling you about how official duty, official whatever. So I sent my driver to do something very urgent. He has to go here and there. Then it becomes business as usual. But you see, what really surprises me is how they manage to think this way.
Yeah.
You see, that members of parliament, the members of the subsidiary legislation committee, the speakers committee, sat down and said that, as for them, what they have decided to do is that they can actually have sirens on their vehicles. But that will not be all. They can even drive above the speed limit. They must not respect speed limits. I mean, is it the same members of parliament, some of whom consistently reminded us when we were talking about, fix the bridge in those days? The people who consistently said that the Adenta Medina highway should not be a highway, and that it was because we considered it as a highway, people were speeding on it and killing people.
Yeah.
The same people are the ones that today they tell us that, oh no, I don't have to respect speed limits. As for me, I can drive anyhow I want. I mean, sometimes, do they really think?
The mentality that shocks you.
No, it shocks me. Look, very honest with you. I've actually said this on air before, that sometimes I fear that there comes a time that even people would say, we did not speak up enough. Okay? The day that people get angry, they even will tell us, you and you and me, they'll tell us that, look, you did not speak it up enough for us. And the people who are supposed to be enacting laws and holding and making sure the government does the right things, they actually want to totally... Look, I got a call about this before it became even news.
Yeah.
I didn't believe it. When I got to the call, I asked that I be giving the LI, because I wasn't going to go to town, without the LI. Because I was shocked. Wow.
Believable.
Why would they do a thing like that? Until I saw the LI. I was like, wow. And all of a sudden, it's become an MPP, NDC thing again. You know the shame in all of this?
Tell me.
That you have members of parliament from both sides defending it.
Yeah. And for me, that's the thing, right? I think when I saw the minority statement, and I'm like, but just the day before, but that morning, a lot of minority MPs were all over on radio stations.
Defending it, yeah.
Defending it. So this is a consensus position. This is unanimous. So when the minority leader discover that, we don't want to have anything to do with this, we haven't pushed that angle too much. But it's a hypocrisy in there that for me also shows that the MPs think they can take us for a ride. First of all, they took us for a ride by trying to put this in the LI. And then when the thing hit the fan, then some of them are trying to chicken out. But I've heard the chair of the Subsidiary Legislation Committee come out now and own what happened and the inclusion of it. But Winston, it is a mindset.
Yeah.
It is a mindset that makes it okay for the Ghanaian politician to place themselves above their employers, the two of us, and the millions watching us all over the world. And for me, this artwork we put out today was apt. Big tummies seated lavishly behind the desk of a buffet. They're feasting.
Yeah.
Feasting on our taxes, feasting on our toll, feasting on the perks that we've given them. And when they finished feasting, they don't even give us the crumbs. So they give the crumbs go to those who are closest to them. Yeah. So we get nothing. Exactly. You know, and I hear people, I think about this week, and I hear people say in this country that, oh, government can do everything. Government can do everything. We rely on government for everything. Like, this is the only country where the reverse is true. The citizens do everything. The government do little to nothing. We fix our own roads. Me, my neighborhood. Every year, the neighbors come together, contribute money to do the road. We provide our own security in our house. This is the only country where, well, a lot of it on the continent too, where we all live behind bars.
Yeah.
We provide your own security.
Because we are scared.
We all live behind bars. We are burglar proof. We live behind bars. Yeah? Bars meant for prison. We're living behind bars in our own homes. Everybody, most people, if you don't have barbed wire, which is meant for prisons, you have an electric fence on top of, you buy dogs. You have provided your own security. In my house, you provide your own water.
Of course.
You have to drill mechanism, which is what I have in my house. When you finish now, you have to provide your own electricity. So you have to go and look for a generator or get an inverter. So you do, and you pay taxes. So.
Of course you pay taxes.
And then when you pay the taxes, they will then give themselves nice, fantastic loans that, you know, is basically because they are members of parliament. They say they pay the loan, that's fine. But that loan, me and you can get the same terms.
No.
Right?
They pay part of it. Part of it. All of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then they now say they should amend the law. The job we've given them, use the job, the powers to make themselves comfortable. It's unconscionable. And they're tone deaf, because anybody who is a sensible politician, reading the temperature of the world right now, especially on the continent, seeing what has happened in Kenya, we're not even there. But I see their brains and thought and conscience is seared. They just want the comfort at our expense. And so amend the legislation, and so they can then drive through traffic and break the traffic regulations without consequence and blur the sirens. And so when you have woken up early, Winston, and you wake up very, very early to come to work, to ensure that you get here on time, and you're sitting in traffic and waiting, the guy will come and just pass you by. And most of them, they're not even going to parliament. They're going to do their own private stuff.
Yeah.
But under the cover of going to parliament, and then come and waste time and then pass and go. It's obvious that something, the public reaction, and I listened to the morning show, forced them into this to be the retreat.
It did.
The government comes out to say, it is the minority side that included it in there. But we know, Winston, that if the government doesn't want something included in that LI, even if you have a chairman who is insisting, it won't go in that LI. Right? So they all share the blame. I think Tampoli,
yes.
He was making the point. It's not good enough. Because if you wanted, you are the custodians. In fact, you are the custodians of that legislation. You are bringing it to parliament. That legislation emanates from the ministry.
Tampoli actually admitted something. He said there was unanimity in the committee.
Yeah.
So the committee has both majority and minority. So the unanimity in the committee means that, and this is where the problem is, the unanimity in the committee means that at that point in time, the executives had to actually, somehow agree.
You say they didn't have a choice.
He
says a choice.
Well, he says they didn't have a choice, but at that point in time.
But the unanimity included them.
Yes, it included them. Oh, of course. No, but nobody's saying they didn't. It included them.
But I heard him say something like the minister objected or something.
Oh, but you see, and I asked him that simple question. Because the minority leader issued a statement, and because the majority is now blaming the minority, because I have you, clarify. And he says there was unanimity. I'm sure in Ghana we know what unanimous means. It means everybody agreed. So at the committee level, they agreed. And that's where the problem is. And so look, today, and I actually wanted to, I found out, I said, who actually made that suggestion, first of all. which he didn't know, but he knows there was unanimity. So the majority is accusing the minority. Dr. Ayene has come to say, I take responsibility. And yeah, that's what a leader must do. He takes responsibility. So if it came from him, well, fine. It means that Dr. Ayene, and on the floor of Parliament, and Dr. Ayene, I am disappointed in him.
Yeah.
I am. That you would have someone like Dr. Ayene and the likes of Andy Apiakubi equally disappointed in him. Because if there was one person that you would have fought for and said, this man would represent the interests of the people all the time,
it should be
Andy Apiakubi.
Because of the positions he's taking on other issues.
But Andy Apiakubi was the first person I heard defending that.
Goodness. At the press conference.
He talks about how, all the things that we do. So when I am coming to work, and when I spoke to Dr. Adumaku Kisi, I said, unfortunately, going to funerals and all of this are not part of your official duties.
Yeah, you make a decision to go to a funeral.
Yes, you see,
in fact, you go to a funeral to further your political interest.
Yeah.
It's not, you see, they make as if they're doing us a favor by going to a funeral. You only go to a funeral because they know if he doesn't go to a funeral and the opponent goes, he will lose elections.
Which he admits.
Exactly.
He thinks that he says that, Okubo, a fine gentleman lost because Ibayala. But you see, this is the point. My problem with members of parliament, and I need to say this so that we talk about this, is that instead of dealing with their problems, they actually find ways
circumventing
or further aggravating the matter. Yeah. So you have a problem, solve it. They find ways of worsening the problem. So instead of dealing with the problem and say, I cannot be present at every funeral. I am your representative. I'm supposed to show empathy or sympathy at every point in time. But where I cannot be present, I can actually send somebody to represent me or make a donation. But why do you think, why should the member of parliament be convinced that he must attend every funeral? Where is he going to get the money to be donating to everybody? You see, so instead of you getting us into a conversation that says, this is not the MP's responsibility, you are rather telling us that because of these things, we should give you a vehicle, put a siren on it, so you don't adhere to traffic regulations and go for these funerals. Very soon you will tell us that because you go to funerals and pay a lot of make a lot of donations,
increase your salary.
We should increase your salary.
But they've made that point before. Yeah, they've made that point before on the floor that MP salary is meager.
Yes.
Do you know our salaries?
They do. You see, that's my problem. But they made a point in the past. People, spoke against it. But very soon they're going to come back again and tell us that
they better not.
You wait and see. Let's give them more money.
But that's the thing, really. I think where we are now as a country, I'm really looking forward to the turnout on December 7th. I did the Youth Manifesto last week on PM Express. And you talk to the young folks, they have lost complete and absolute faith in their politicians and the political class. They've lost faith in our politics. Yesterday, the CDD Afrobarometer report was clear that the African youth, they've lost faith in our democracy. They don't see this is relative to the adults, to the older generation. They are not as convinced about democracy as the adult population. And why? Because the democratic dividends, they haven't seen it. They've been left with disappointment. And the thing about it too is that there's a correlation between this feeling towards democracy and their receptiveness towards military juntas and one-man rule. Because a lot of them have not experienced the 80s when we had a lot of coups across the continent, even in Ghana. So they've grown up in an era where it was democracy. It was, the parliamentary democracy of the president, you vote, etc. And all they see is their parents struggling to pay their fees. You see bad road, no water. So they're tired. They want something different, right? Yeah. That for me is a danger. And you may see, and on the show, they don't want to participate in the polls. You ask them, so why did you register to vote? They want an ID card that they can use to process other documentation and access public services. It's not because they want to get an ID card, a voter's ID card, to go and vote. One of them said they don't want to vote at all. And I was hoping that by the time the conversation ends, the political reps in the room would have completely finished and said, no, I haven't heard anything, right? And for me, we'll see that translate into voter turnout this year.
Evans, let me
but the
ask
politicians,
you go ahead.
They are setting themselves up to become an endangered species. What we've seen in Kenya, we've heard people say the echoes of that may happen in Ghana. And if they don't set up, and some of them are already talking about it. I mean, I've heard Afenyo Market make the point. The youth, they are considering, they're seeing that, they're hearing, they have friends elsewhere. They're connected, interconnected world. You're seeing through into the next step. It takes one thing like this nonsense, to get people upset to the point where they want to take the law into their own hands.
Do you get convinced by politicians when you hear them speak?
No, you absolutely not.
You're not convinced.
It's tiring, Winston.
You see, so I mean, this is the problem. They're actually detached from reality. They're totally
They live in their own world, completely own world.
They live their own world. They think that everybody is like them and is prepared to listen to them. And so, I mean, they just don't care. That is the problem. They just don't care. And all the time they say, people must understand the problems we're going through. They must understand what we're going through. They must understand. Look, it will get to a point they would not understand. And why in God's name will they understand you? When you have shown all these years that all you think about, the only thing you're concerned about is you and not anybody else. That for me is the problem. It is actually the problem. And see, today I have consistently said, whenever these young ones have contacted me, I've always said that, look, I lived through the military regime. I know how I feel. I mean, I know, I may not know that as much as those who are older than I am, but at least I even saw the post-military regime and I could feel the, tension even at that time. The last thing you want is to go back to a military rule. But there are people who actually say, we need a reset. And I have said, we don't need a reset. The reset we need is the people protesting. If you're unhappy with the government, you protest and the government will step down. This is it. I mean, I don't see it happening in this year because Ghanaians have come to the conclusion that Akufo-Addo is going. So they will let him go. But whoever takes over from Akufo-Addo must be very, very careful. Whoever takes over. Because you see...
And this is going to be harder.
Oh, yes. Yesterday it was V8. Ghanaians complained. You said, that'll just be the last time. I am waiting for 2025. I'm waiting to see. We'll all be here if God grants us life. Whether the next person would also say, that's okay. Or he probably would say, no. I also want to get...
But you see, a part of this, we also, and I like to mention this all the time, is also because of our docility as a people. But part of it, because they think they can take us for granted and get away. Even the way this has been withdrawn, it is unacceptable. Nobody has apologized to us for first thinking about this and putting in an act that actually started counting. Yeah? The folks on the committee, subsidiary committee that looked at this, they haven't come out to apologize. So, and of course, we have moved on, right? Almost.
Yeah.
But the guys in Kenya, yesterday or this week, 2 days ago, they were still protesting. They are still protesting, right? Because they've even forced the president to sack almost his entire cabinet. And they still want more. They want to get to a point where it becomes impossible for you to avoid and pretend you can't see the anger of the people. But in Ghana, the thing is withdrawn, we all move on to the next big subject, and the thing is back. Do you know which other legislation is being cooked right now? It's the nature of allies. Once they go do some small pre-laying, chances are a lot of the other MPs will not even know.
And see, today I was surprised. Member of Parliament for North Tongue, Samuel Okudeta Blakwa, said he did not know what was in there. And he actually says that, a lot of the time when they take it to the committee goes through, they bring it, they don't show it to them until it passes. Then they get to see it. And he's had issues to concern. But you see, And Anakumia jokingly said, oh, the man who intercepts documents that are not even before Parliament couldn't intercept his own the document that was now before Parliament. But this is the point for me. When even in the chamber, all of us go to sleep. Because if this, and I got calls from different quarters, again, it had become a partisan thing. And I have always maintained that when the issue becomes NPP, NDC, I'm not really keen on it. I'm only keen on one thing. Is it right? Mm-hmm. Is it wrong? If it's wrong, let's get it out. If it's right, keep it. And people have talked about the LI on cement. I say there should be some regulation on cement. We need to know the price build-up. I don't have a problem with that. I think, yes, engagement is key, but I don't have a problem with that. So when people say, oh, we want to talk about that one, I say, yes, we'll talk about it, and we've spoken about it. Okay, but of course you need to engage. That's fact, you need to engage. But today, people have talked about the need to even change, this whole law in Parliament. They just go and submit the LI, they engage the subsidiary legislation committee with a pre-laying, and then by the end of it, it's done. So they lay it. You can only gather 2/3 of members of Parliament to, throw it out, or it passes. So it's something that governments use. They just wait, try to push it through, and once they push it through, then that's the end of it.
Yeah.
No, that's a problem.
No, so this must trigger a rethink, because the MPs, they won't stop. They are always seeking their interest. They did it with Drop That Chamber. They were going to spend more than $200 million to build a new chamber when we didn't need it at the time of economic crisis. They've been talking in Parliament for so long about increasing their salaries, their remuneration, and good, etc., when everybody else is struggling within the same economy with no salaries going up. They are now attempting to change the law to suit them to drive around recklessly and not have any consequences. So they've shown that they won't stop. The key point really is, what would the citizens do to punish them and to serve that same warning the Kenyans have served to their politicians? Everybody else will have an opportunity on December 7th to do that. The point is, we'll see whether they do that or not. The key question really we have in Ghana, and this is where the challenge is, what is the alternative? The alternative for me, right, is a thinking that goes to question, whichever party wins, the legitimacy of that government. How do you do that? If less people register to vote, turn out to vote, Winston, somebody will win the election.
Of course.
But that person will not have legitimacy, because he will not have been elected by the majority of Ghanaians. If we protest, because you see, what is the alternative? That's the challenge, right? That's the Ghanaian challenge. Alan Chamantin will say, yeah, it's an alternative. But he's from the old stock. You have cheddar. Maybe you like cheddar. So, But that's my point. We don't have that credible alternative to these two main political parties. And I know the other parties will say, yeah, CPP, PNC, they're all infighting.
CPP, a party that less than 6 months to an election, they don't have a flag bearer. They fight. They have interim executive committee. Is that a party you think is serious? The PNC, they are fighting. PNP, those two parties are not serious.
Something radical must happen still through the ballot box, and a protest through election boycott. And then the young guys actually were saying it on my show that they will not be voting this year. And that when consistently we show that, and questions about legitimacy emerges, when you have, I think now our voter population in terms of those who have picked up registration forms and may vote, picked up ID cards and may vote. Last year it was 17 million, right?
Yeah, in
2020, 17 million. We're estimating that we are probably going to 19 million this year. If the vast majority of that decide that just deliberately as a protest, they're not going to vote, yes, somebody will win elections, but that person and other politicians will know that notice is served, that your legitimacy is now in question. That's one way of doing it. But TUC this week on PMS make a point. They made a point about they had a meeting and decided that this time they are going to now be speaking and advocating on issues that are not necessarily one that is personal to them, affects them personally. So they'll be talking about galamsey. When I say personally, of course, galamsey affects everybody. But what they tended to do was only to fight on issues when it has to do with pensions of their members, etc. They see galamsey and say corruption as, distant issues. But they say they're going to move into that arena. And their strategy will be protest. They're not going to just do one-day protest because they say one-day protest, nobody listens. They're now going to do several-day protests that has a staying power, for example. And I think that's a brilliant idea because if you have Labour, for example, doing that on a more consistent basis, on the key issues of national concern, will achieve faster results because of the huge numbers. Almost 1 million, right? Yeah. Public sector workers. That will force the government to beat that retreat we saw with the Senate, hotel sale. Yeah. It will even force them more not to even dare craft an airline like we saw with this particular one. And we need that. They say they are not going to form a political party, which is fine. But we don't need them to form a political party to put pressure on the system to do the right thing. No, we don't need them. If they form a political party, they become like the system. In fact, what we need them to do now is what they've said. Now and in. So government, why? There is nothing government wants to do that it cannot do. Yeah. So if government is committed to the fight against illegal mining, it will win the fight. Yeah. So yes, organized labor, they have been sleeping for too long. It's good they are awake now, and they must continue the fight. So I guess the notice is served to the politicians that at some point, enough will be enough. But when that time comes, they better be on the right side of history. Enjoy the rest of your evening.